Hello boys, hello girls, hello babes. Welcome back to the Janae Talks Caps podcast. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in today. It is a pleasure to have you here. And please, we ask that if you do find yourself enjoying today's show, then please go ahead and click on that subscribe button, as we do not want you to miss any future episodes. We've got a lot going on here right now. Our Washington Capitals are right in the thick of the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, and so we have got lots to talk about. So click on that subscribe button if you don't mind, and join us for this ride. We would love to have you along with us, and it is sure to be a wild finish here in the Eastern Conference. Okay, so just how have our Washington Capitals gotten themselves back into this thing, right? As you will remember, there was a point not too long ago at all actually, when they were 11 points out of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. And now, at the time that I'm recording this episode, they sit just 1 point back of the Detroit Red Wings for the final wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. And they also sit just 3 points back of the Philadelphia Flyers for third place in the Metropolitan Division. And they have 2 games in hand on both the Flyers and the Red Wings. So things are looking pretty promising for the Caps right now. Things are looking pretty good for them, both in the standings and with their play on the ice. And I think what it really comes down to for the Caps right now, why they've been able to get themselves back in this thing, is really just a belief in one another, right? Like a belief in the guy sitting next to you in the locker room, and that kind of like never say die, no quit attitude from this team. Even in the face of being 11 points out of a playoff spot, even in the face of everyone in the media quitting on you, they have never quit on themselves. They have never quit on each other. And overall, they've won 4 of their last 6 games here. They've won 6 games on the road since the All-Star break, which is the 3rd best mark in the entire National Hockey League over that span. They have not had an easy schedule here at all. In fact, they've actually had the toughest schedule in the entire NHL ever since the calendar flipped over to 2024. There is a metric, if you're not familiar with it, called strength of schedule, which actually measures that, quantifies that. And yeah, the Caps have had the number 1 toughest strength of schedule in the entire league ever since the calendar flipped to 2024. And yet, they have been doing pretty damn well with it. Obviously, winning enough games to get themselves back into playoff contention here, making up a lot of ground in the process. As I mentioned, they were at one point 11 points back. 11 points back. I know I keep saying that, but that is crazy. 11 points back of the nearest playoff spot, that is. But they have all but erased that deficit now, as like I said, they're just 1 point out heading into tonight's game in Calgary. And they've been doing it in a variety of different ways, really. They're winning these games in a variety of different ways with a variety of different contributors. They had a stretch of a few weeks there recently where they were scoring, 5-6 goals seemingly every single night and winning games that way. And then these last 2 games, by contrast, these last 2 games in Seattle on the second half of a back-to-back, and then in Vancouver, they have locked it down defensively to get 4 more very important points on the road, winning both of those games in regulation by 2-1 scores. So the usual suspects have, of course, been coming up large. Alex Ovechkin had another game-winning goal in Vancouver on Saturday night. Thank you, Ovi. I was in the building for that one. Those of you who don't know, I live in Vancouver, so I was at that game there. We'll talk about that one in a bit here. But yeah, Alex Ovechkin, another game-winning goal in Vancouver on Saturday night. Tom Wilson, John Carlson, TJ Oshie, they have been playing great, despite obviously battling through some injuries. But then it's also been the kids, right? It's been the kids who have been coming up extremely large for the Caps as well. Connor McMichael scores a massive third period game-winning goal in Seattle the other night. That goal broke a 1-1 tie late in the third period. Clutch. Hendrix Lapierre, Last I checked as well, I believe it was like 6 goals and 7 points he had in 6 games since being called up from Hershey this time. He is playing a huge role in this playoff push, and he is certainly looking like a top 6 center in the NHL right now. Ivan Miroshnichenko, 2 goals and 3 points since being called up from Hershey, and both of his goals were absolute beauties too, by the way. He has also got the best 5-on-5 process stats on the team since being called up from Hershey. And those, if you're not familiar, those are the analytics that look at things at 5-on-5, things like puck possession, scoring chance generation, et cetera. Miroshnichenko, he has been the most dangerous player on the ice most nights for either team. And now that he's broken that dam, so to speak, of getting his first NHL goal, getting that out of the way, I would not be surprised if the goals just keep on coming for Miroshnichenko, because he generates a ton of high danger scoring chances. And obviously, he's got the rocket of a shot to finish them off as well. And you can see very clearly with every NHL game that Miroshnichenko plays, every NHL shift that he gets under his belt, he is just getting more and more comfortable and confident at the NHL level. And he is literally looking better and better with every NHL game that he plays. And clearly, if you look at the numbers, which I referenced already, he is already an impact player at the NHL level. So him continuing to look even better and better with every game, that's frankly a scary thought for the rest of the league. I'm just pulling it up here right now, but according to the analytics here, so the Caps offense as a whole sees a 21% uptick with Ivan Miroshnichenko on the ice. That is crazy. He's a kid, right? The sky is the limit for this kid, clearly. Like, he has so much talent. He's so much fun to watch already. I have really enjoyed watching him. I'm happy he's sticking around for the rest of this season. He played in that pivotal, if you will, 10th game of his entry-level contract in Vancouver the other night. So, that effectively takes a year off of his entry-level deal. Not takes it off, but this season will count as that first year of his entry-level contract. So they burn a year off of that by him playing that 10th game, but that's okay. Like, he is contributing right now in a massive way to this playoff push. And like I said, the fact that he's gaining so much by being in the NHL right now every day, like every NHL game that he plays, like I said, every NHL shift that he takes, you can see his comfort level, his confidence, everything is just growing at the NHL level. So that is going to serve the Caps big time heading into next season, him gaining that comfort level and that confidence at the NHL level right now. He'll be ready to go for next season. He looks ready to go right now for the rest of this season, frankly. So, but yeah, I have no problem with them having him play in that 10th game and burning that first year of his entry-level contract, as it's going to serve them very well heading into next season, him having all of that extra comfort level, that extra confidence at the NHL level. He's going to be just ready to go for next season. And surely he'll be even more of an impact player than next season than he already is right now. 21% uptick in the Capitals offense with him on the ice. Crazy stuff. And then guys like Alexei Protas, Beck Malenstein, like these kids continue to impress with their poise and their play both with and away from the puck. Like, for my money, honestly, like, Beck Malenstein is one of the best defensive forwards in the entire NHL right now, which is crazy to say, obviously, because he's a rookie, but it's the truth. And like, if you look at the numbers, like the defensive metrics back me up on that. It's not just me talking out of my ass here. All of the stats say that he is one of the very best in the league defensively. And so you've got these young guys who are playing extremely well, contributing huge, both on offense and on defense. And then you've got the veteran guys playing well and contributing, as they always have and always do. And oh, by the way, you have got a tendy in Chucky Lindgren, who is playing absolutely out of his mind this season. And he is continuing to do it right now during this pressure cooker of this playoff push right now. Like, the Caps for the last several weeks have not had really any room for error, right? And Charlie Lindgren has just continued doing what he's done all season, playing amazing. He's been coming up huge. During this playoff push right now, like he is 4-1-0 in his last 5 games here with a 1.20 goals against average and a .959 save percentage. That'll do, pig. That'll do, okay? And so just looking at this most recent handful of games here, right, because I do want to talk about them individually a little bit, just so we can talk about the different ways that the Caps have been winning games, because like I said, there has been some variety to that. They're winning these games in a lot of different ways. So let's start off with the 6-0 demolishing of the Penguins in Pittsburgh, because that was certainly a fun one for all of us here. So goal scoring for the Caps. There was a lot of it. And it started off with none other than Tom Wilson. Shorthanded, might I add. It was on a Pittsburgh Penguins power play. He scores maybe the goal of the entire season in the National Hockey League, batting the puck out of midair with a baseball-esque swing past Tristan Jarry. And, that was him batting his own rebound of his initial shot that had rung off the post, by the way. Like, he took the first shot initially, rings it off the pipe, and then he bats his own rebound right off the post, out of midair, perfectly into the net. Incredible stuff from Tom Wilson, much to the delight of the Pittsburgh crowd, obviously. And that shorthanded goal, it pretty much set the tone for the night, as Alex Ovechkin would then score, Nick Jensen would score, Hendrix Lapierre would score, Ivan Miroshnichenko would score his first NHL goal, by the way, to make it 5-0. It was a beautiful goal. And then Sonny Milano would score as well for the touchdown and the 6-0 final. So big offensive outburst for the Caps. Dylan Strome had 3 assists. Alex Ovechkin, 1 goal, 1 assist. Sonny Milano, 1 goal, 1 assist. Beck Malenstein had 2 assists as well. And of course, Charlie Lindgren, right? Coming in clutch once again with the 39 save shutout. Incredible stuff. And then the offense continued 48 hours later, with the Caps putting up 4 more goals on the Blackhawks in a 4-1 win. Tom Wilson, Hendrix Lapierre, Sonny Milano all scored again in that one, as did Mike Scarbosa, another Hershey Bears call-up. And Charlie Lindgren was again in net for the Caps, and he again stopped 31 of 32 shots. And then after that brief 1-game stop at home, the Caps again head right back out onto the road. And I honestly thought the first game of this road trip, that being the game in Winnipeg, that was honestly maybe their most lifeless game of the entire season. They just didn't seem to have their legs at all after that long flight out there. And the Winnipeg Jets, obviously, very, very good hockey team, right? If you do not have your legs against the Winnipeg Jets this season, then you are not going to win that game. And when they did not, getting shut out 3-0 by Connor Hellebuck and company. So it was not a great start to the road trip, obviously. And then the game in Edmonton, I actually watched this one in VR, virtual reality, that is, with my best friend who happens to be an Edmonton Oilers fan. We don't live in the same time zone anymore, and so that's why we watched this one in VR. It is a very cool way of watching a game long distance with your friend or friends if you don't live in the same place. And so anyways, when it was announced before the game that Darcy Kuemper would be starting this game, my Oilers fan friend can attest here, okay? I literally said to him when it was announced that Kuemper would be starting, I said, "Hoo boy. Well, one of us is going to have a great time watching this game tonight, and it is not going to be me." That is what I said to him. And my friend said to me too after the game, he said that really was not a 7-2 hockey game that played out on the ice. It was probably more like a 3-2 hockey game, Like, don't get me wrong, we should have lost that game, but it was probably more like a 3-2 score. Like, that was kind of more what played out on the ice. However, Darcy Kemper turned it into a 7-2 hockey game, just for shits and giggles. So, I mean, my God, like, he's out there letting Connor fucking Brown score his first goal in about a bazillion years, by the way. And I had also told my friend to bet on that happening during this game, by the way. I had literally said to him, hey, Darcy Kemper in net. Tonight's the night, man. Tonight's the night. Connor Brown is scoring his first goal in 2 years tonight. Bet on it. And I'm not Nostradamus. I just know Darcy Kemper, and I know how Darcy Kemper has played this season. It has not been pretty. And sure enough, like, it was like this flubber of a puck that just kind of nicked off of Brown's shin pad, and in on Darcy Kemper. But that was okay, though, because the puck actually hit Darcy Kemper right in the belly, making it a very easy save for an NHL goalie. But hold on, though, because I said it's an easy save for an NHL goalie. An NHL goalie, okay? Kemper, however, he takes that puck in his belly, and then he just kind of, like, I'm just watching it here again just now. Like, he takes the puck in his belly, and then he just kind of tips himself over backwards into his own net, allowing the puck to roll into the net right along with him. Great stuff. Darcy Kemper, not an NHL goalie this season. Anyways, I agree with my Oilers fan friend. Shout out to Doogie. I love you. But I agree with him. Like, this was not a 7-2 hockey game. But regardless of how poorly Darcy Kemper played, we still lost the game. We still, like I said, we would have lost no matter who was in net. It just probably would have been a closer game. At least we would have given ourselves a chance to win. But yeah, we probably still would have lost no matter who was in net. And so losing that game, like, those 2 standings points were gone, right? They're not coming back. And so that made the game the next night in Seattle, given what happened in Edmonton the night before, that made the game the next night in Seattle all the more important. This game in Seattle was as close to a must-win as you can have this season, I think. Like, up until you come down to the very last few days of the season, and you might have an actual must-win, but the season so far, this game in Seattle was as close to a must-win as we have gotten so far, I would say. And yeah, I mean, like, both of these last 2 games, first the one in Seattle and then the one in Vancouver, the Caps really needed these points from both of these games. And they found a way to get them by playing some truly great defense, as I alluded to earlier. Both games, 2-1 wins, like I said, in regulation. And they really locked it down defensively, man. Like, they really did. They really laid everything on the line in both of these games. They only allowed 24 shots to Seattle, and then they went right back out in Vancouver and basically duplicated that effort, if not, did it even a little better, allowing only 22 shots to the first place Canucks. And like I said, I was at the game in Vancouver. I was in the building for this one. And yeah, I mean, like, I've got to tell you, man, like, the defensive effort, I'm going to harp on this a little bit, but the defensive effort was incredible. And I'm not just talking about the defensemen, because I know when you say defense, like, people assume that you're just talking about defensemen, right? But I'm not just talking about the defensemen. The defensemen were great, but I'm not just talking about the defensemen. It was also all of the forwards as well, coming back and helping out on defense. It was just really an absolute clinic out there defensively by your Washington Capitals as a whole 5-man unit, and obviously Chucky and Ned as well. But yeah, every single guy completely committed. And yeah, Chucky, what can we say at this point? Like, he didn't have to do much in this game, like in the game in Vancouver. But when he was called upon to make some saves, he was there to make them, just as he always is. The Caps, talking about shots given up, so they only give up 22 shots to the Canucks in that game in Vancouver. And when you check the analytics as well, like when you dive a little bit deeper, they only gave up 4 inner slot shots all night to the Vancouver Canucks. All night long in a 60-minute hockey game. That is crazy. Crazy. Maybe the best defensive game of the season so far. And yeah, man, like the buy-in, like I said, from every single guy defensively, all up and down the lineup, defensemen, forwards, goaltender, veteran guys, and rookies alike. It was a sight to behold in person. That is for sure. So like I said, I wanted to harp on that a little bit on the defense that was played, because like what a hell of a job Spencer Carberry has done with this team. Like if the Caps make the playoffs this season, against all odds, by the way, I don't know if there was anyone out there other than us Washington Capitals fans who had faith that this team could make the playoffs. I had faith, certainly. But like I'm talking like in the mainstream media, you didn't see a lot of people picking the Caps to make the playoffs this season. So if the Caps make the playoffs this season, like I said, against all odds, I don't know how Spencer Carberry would not be up for Coach of the Year in the NHL, because the job that he's done has been incredible. But anyways, yeah, like it was pretty funny to be in the building for this game in Vancouver, honestly, because Canucks fans were honestly getting really, really frustrated with how well the Caps were playing defense. I think folks in that building are used to seeing their team score a lot more goals this season, but not today, Satan, not today. We needed those 2 points, okay? And yeah, Chucky and net for both of those wins, those being the wins in Seattle and then again in Vancouver, and, you know, big game-winning goals from Connor McMichael in Seattle and then from Alex Ovechkin in Vancouver. Both the youngsters and the veterans alike getting it done for this team. That is what we love to see. And you know what? That is going to be a good note to leave off on for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already done so. We appreciate it so much. You all are what make this show so much fun to do. Until next time, babes, and as always, let's go Caps.